Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out with the head of Wasserman Boxing, Kalle Sauerland. How are you?
Danny, always good when I see you. Very well, and love to talk to you. And great, and thanks for Seconds Out for coming down today. I think it was. Hope you enjoyed yourself at Wasserman HQ here in central London.
It's always nice when there's a spread put on, I've got to say. I think that increased the numbers a bit.
We try. We make our best efforts to make everyone feel at home when they walk through the doors of Wasserman.
And this event was to mark the launch of the relationship between Wasserman Boxing and Channel 5, terrestrial TV. I guess the first question, regarding Channel 5 or terrestrial boxing output in general, how do you plan to differ from anyone who's gone before?
I think you've got to look at the strengths of what's gone before. I think there's been some fantastic matchmaking on Channel 5. Matchmaking's always, they always look good on paper. It still has to perform, But so I think that part's worked very well. I think that we'll try and go for a bit of more classic mainstream approach to it in terms of the build-up. We're looking at slightly different venues to the past, and I think most importantly, I think we're going to try and go for the consistency in the names you see on there, and I think we have a young stable, but we have a very aggressively building stable in terms of numbers, and we're going to go out and sign more fighters. Look, we've rolled the dice obviously with this British title fight, which is a cracker. The reaction to it, Udofia Bentley was as big as winning a world title purse bid. It was the first purse bid we ever entered for a British title fight, so we were very delighted to.
And you defeated the king of purse bids.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Frank must have been saving at the time for the big one with Fury White. Now I understand why we won. Thanks, Frank. We think we got the better fight. But no, joking aside. Well, we'll see. I think our levels of competition, I think ours ain't far off. But I said before at the press conference, it's about, a lot of people say, too many belts in boxing, too many uncertainties, interim champs, this, that, and the other. But really, the purest belt on a level where you know where you're at in your career is the British belt. And in Germany there's no real German belt, and Scandinavia we promoted a lot there's no Scandic belt. Well, there are, but they're not really seen and respected like that. Like the German title as well don't mean nothing. And this one has always managed to keep its prestige over the years, and I think that's something that's very important. It's very important especially on a free-to-air level, where there are no, for the mainstream pundits who are watching boxing, maybe as a very casual spectator, they know that the man who wins that is the champion of Britain. What does that give him the right to do? It gives him the right to brag, but it also, more importantly, gives him the right for me to go on to conquer the world, or try and conquer the world. It was as easy as that, and we'd all try and be British champions tomorrow. But it's about that path, and I think that it's storytelling in a positive sense in terms of a journey. So it's a cracking fight. Look, we obviously have Udofia. We back this fight. We believe in this fight. And
is that why you sat so close to him at a little head-to-head, further away from Denzel?
I did that to show the logo, the Big Five logo. No, and that. I was a bit worried when I saw Denzel walk over. He looked a bit grumpy. No, actually, both fantastic characters, great gladiators, and may the best man win, of course, as long as it's my guy.
Now, most people would refer to that as a 50-50 fight. I'd say you've got two others that are around about 60-40, maybe not quite that good in terms of Harlem's fight. I'd make him a pretty decent favourite. And Josh Kelly on the show as well, who hasn't fought in over a year. Are you going to be able to maintain that level of quality and depth as you go along with this Channel 5 partnership?
I think, if you look at the stable, and of course Josh Kelly's not going to be fighting King Kong on May 13th. We all know that. He's been out. He's been put on a very high pedestal before when he was at Sky, and he's learning, but believe me, Josh Kelly will become world champion. Sure of it. But it's a learning curve, and got to give him the time to do that. But when you talk about matching fights, I think if you look at the stable, there's a lot of talents that are there to be tested, and that's what ultimately provides great fights, is when those tests come in careers. So actually, if you look across the stable, there's some very interesting fighters and fights to take place. Look at our big heavyweight Nathan Gorman. Had a very bad luck not to be able to box last weekend. He'll be out soon, and we love those fights on the domestic scene there as well. He's such a talent, and Fabio Wardley, great fight to make. He's over at DAZN at the moment. But maybe there's a deal to be done to bring him over for a fight on Channel 5. We've worked well with Matchroom before, so that's a potential there. There's other big fights on the domestic scene as well. Down the road, love to see Dubois again. These things will come, and we take step for step. It's not the first time we've as a company sat on domestic deals, so I believe it's in the DNA of our business. It always has been free to air, I keep on mentioning that number of the 23 million in Germany. Of course, that's not going to happen on May 13th from the Indigo, but it's a place we need to be trying to get to. We need to be trying to get there. We need to reach out to new fans. So I do think that the other networks, with their media outlets, will support this. We'll push it as well, because if they look at the growth of boxing, this is one of the key deals, in the British market.
You mentioned Sky in connection with Josh a couple of times. It's where he made his name, I guess. To what extent do you feel he was rushed, perhaps beyond his progression at the time, by Sky or by Matchroom, or both?
I wasn't there. From the outside, it certainly looked it. Avanesian wasn't a kept secret. I think he's a fantastic boxer. He reminds me a bit of a throwback Arthur Abraham at middleweight. They're also Armenian descent. I think, yes, it was that bridge too far, but hey, we just talked about tests. Maybe it was the wrong test, but if you take that L not as a loss and as a learn, there's very few fighters at that weight, around the super welter scene, who go out with an O. In fact, I can only think of one right now, and we all know who that is, and he's a unique talent. But you don't really have an O on your record. What was Pacquiao when he became a world champion? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it wasn't an O though. It was much lighter at the time. I think he lost. And I'm not even drawing comparisons at this stage of a career. It's just, it's a loss. Okay. I think COVID, the break came in. There's certain careers that have benefited from that. I do think, like Eubank Jr, for example, had that time to work with Roy Jones alone during lockdown. I think that similarly, Josh and Adam Booth have had that time. Adam's made champions out of lesser fighters. Josh Kelly is a fighter that it wasn't, to say that it was a Sky hype job and an Eddie Hearn hype job, I simply don't believe. I think they believed in him, and there's very good people at Sky who know their boxing, and Eddie Hearn certainly knows his boxing. And, I think we're here to be patient, but at the same time, Josh, isn't happy to go out with a British title. He wants to go out with the world title. So, we'll be patient, but we'll be making aggressive moves this year as well. But it's activity.
And we mentioned earlier briefly about Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury, and you outbidding Frank Warren, one of those rare occasions he loses a purse bid. How much?
Not a few,
recently.
Lost a few as well.
How much sympathy, if any, do you have with Frank Warren given Dillian Whyte's current stance, and also the unknown, because we don't know if that's going to change?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I'd say first and foremost, it's a shame for me. Forget that I'm a promoter. As a fan, I want to see that press conference. It's the biggest belt in the world. you know, you want to see the banter between them. We know there's going to be banter between them. And Tyson's an absolute performer, and I've been at Dillian Whyte press conferences myself over the years, and he's also a great character. So, you know, to have them both on a stage, not just in the ring, of course, is a big part of it. So I forget, because I don't know the ins and outs of, you know, the splits before and the ill feeling between them and the 4 tickets that were offered or the 2 tickets or whatever it was. Been there before. There's always a solution to be found.
What would you have done on that point? You know, you've won the purse bid. You don't have to do anything in particular to accommodate the challenger. But what is your standard thing in that situation?
I mean, we had a similar situation years ago with Klitschko Povetkin. It was a $23.3 million winning bid, and was from our Russian partners at the time, and they wanted that fight in Moscow. Of course, I mean, it wasn't quite as bad as it is at the moment, of course, with the 2 countries at war, but let's say that there was certain doubts in the camp of the Klitschko side, which of course didn't really want to go to Russia, and you know, it was at the time a case of the Russians convincing them that, you know, that this would be done and that would be done, and yes, it went out and beyond the purse bid rules, which are, by the way, very simple, and I think that, you know, probably Frank's followed everything by the letter of the book, you know, and, you know, sometimes you need to offer that bit more, but, you know, once again, Frank's probably got his side of things where he's like, well, I've put down this money, so I'm, you know, you've got enough money to go and buy 10 tickets for your family, you know. There's 2 sides to the story. As a promoter, I feel for Frank, though, in terms of he's not able to sell the fight the way he should be able to sell the fight, but as the boxing public, I feel like I'm missing something. I like watching Dillian Whyte at press conference.
Would you have accommodated him? Would you have gone beyond what you're obligated to do?
Put me on the spot here, Dan. I would have, but I don't know. I'm sure Frank has as well. You know, I don't know what has been offered. I heard about a private jet being offered for him to come over to the press conference.
Apparently it's short notice.
Well, yeah, is that well, exactly? Was that true? Was that not true? We don't know. It's you know, it's propaganda from both sides. You know, it's it's a strange situation, but ultimately, whatever's been offered or not offered has led to that Dillian hasn't appeared at the first press conference, and from what I hear, won't be appearing at the second press conference, which I don't know where the legal points drag. I mean, I would be looking at it and saying, hey, you know, this is a default, you know, on an event, because at the end of the day, as a promoter, we need to make back that money, and in this case, on paper at least, I'm sure there was a separate deal with Fury, I would imagine, in that situation. But
would you be confident the fight itself happens right now as we speak?
Yeah, I mean, it's on paper, it's a huge amount of money, and it's a record payday, and you know, he's been waiting for that shot for so long. I think, forget the money, I think Dillian as an athlete will want this fight so bad that, you know, he'll be there, you know, to fight. What his team around him, and I'm sure that Dillian focuses on the fight, but what his team of lawyers or managers, advisors, whatever it is, what they end up agreeing with Warren in terms of the promotion before, I mean, it's a thin line. I mean, I don't know what the WBC's role in it is. Ultimately, they're the sanctioning body, they're the governing body, you know, and I'm sure that Mauricio Sulaiman will be trying to make that happen as well, because ultimately it's if you pay for, if I went out and bought at auction a Rolling Stones concert and they turned up without Keith Richards and only Mick Jagger, I'd sort of go back and say, well, the 42 million I paid for that concert, I'd like to discuss that price, because it's quite clearly not quite the full ticket here. Yeah?
Presumably not in front of Mick.
Presumably not in front of Mick. Mick would be kept out of that discussion. But of course, the argumentation then from the Richard side would be, well, but the fight's on. They're going to fight, and he'll be at the weigh-in. Will he do the face-to-face at the weigh-in, for example? Another question. If he doesn't do a presser, I would bet that he don't do the face-to-face either. He gets up, gets weighed in, which he has to do according to contract. Even as a heavyweight, you don't need to make weight, but you need to get on them scales and do your medicals. So there's certain things that you can't get out of doing. So I don't know, maybe Tyson jumps up when he's on the scales and faces off with him while he's on the scales. I don't know. I'm trying to get imaginative here, what I'd be trying to do as a promoter if I was in that situation. But hey, boxing every day, new story, and I'm sure there'll be a few twists and turns until the fight's actually happening.
Talking of twists and turns, how many fights has Chris Eubank Jr. got left with Sky Sports, and does it have to be on box office?
A very technical one. Look, we're sitting down now trying to negotiate a Kell Brook fight at the moment. I can tell you that runs via. We're not talking directly with Brook. That's the Sky side, and what I understand is we have an understanding on the weight. Now, of course, after the weight...
What's the understanding on the weight? Come on.
Oh, no.
Come on.
Let's put it this way. It will be the catch weight.
We work that out. Come on.
Yeah, it'll be the catch weight. And there is also certain rehydration clauses and things like that. I've got no idea. No, I'm not good with numbers. The only number I'm going to talk about today is Channel 5.
So it's 155.
No, it's not quite 155, no. But no, it will be most importantly, I think, is this rehydration clause the next day. It doesn't help you to make a weigh-in and then go off and load up. So I do believe, though, that we still have a few hurdles to cross in terms of the numbers and, to make that feasible.
That's a box office fight.
That would be, of course, a Sky box office fight, and so when you say about the deal, it's very nice to say we will Sky box office dates. We need opponents, of course, to put on there that makes sense for Sky, who's a premium broadcaster of boxing, and for us in terms of Chris Eubank's career. So, let's see. We hope we get that fight made.